Welcome to Talking Heads on USA Global TV, starring the one and only wonderful Dr. Jacqueline. It's a prestigious place where world-class influencers and experts meet, and where you'll find the most trusted advisors and coaches for all things in life and business. Visit usaglobaltv.com to sign up for our newsletter, get the value you need, and be first in line to learn about events and giveaways and other valuable content. Connect with us. Email Dr. Jacqueline at usaglobaltv.com to talk about how you can become part of USA Global TV. That's USA Global TV, where the doctor is always in.
Hello, welcome to USA Global TV and Radio. My name is Caroline Heward and I'm known as the Harley Street Stress Expert. Our show today is Talking Heads. I'm an expert presenter on today's topic, which is understanding anger and how to control it before it controls you. And it's part of the Mind and Body Connection series. Let's begin. I like to start on a quote because it sets my scene for our presentation today. And it's by Dr. Margaret Rutherford, who said this. We learn about anger in our families we grow up in. We watch and listen to the adults around us. We learn how and when to express it. I'd like to repeat that again. We learn about anger in the families we grow up in. We watch and listen to the adults around us. We learn how and when to express it. Dr. Margaret Rutherford. So we start learning about anger when we're very young. It doesn't just happen. It's something that's in our environment from the moment that we're born. And it affects the way that we respond. And so if we see the people around us, our parents, our family, our siblings being angry and getting a response from that, we will then realize, we will say, yes, that's how I express when I'm not happy about something. And so it's important to understand where it comes from, how our responses are created, where they come from. To look at types of anger. The first type of anger is inward anger, and it's where we're constantly telling ourselves some negative inner talk, that inner critic that goes round and round in the mind and gives us, oh, I'm not good enough, I can't do that, nobody cares about me, they don't like me, if I do that, they will be offended, so I mustn't do that. And it's the inward anger of something that we're not happy about. It's the critical conversation that's internal, that no one else is aware of. So it's a personal anger that's inside of us, that isn't external to us, it's inside of us. Self-punishment, when we punish ourselves for something that we feel that we should be punishing ourselves for. So if there's a situation in the family environment, in our working situation, where we start to feel that, well, if I don't eat, then I will be okay, I'll be in control, and I don't have appetite to eat. And these things are punishing our very nature of being who we are. If we are self-critical, martyrdom. It's where we play the martyr. Oh, well, I'm just going to do this because nobody else will do it. And it will be, I'll get this done because I know that when I do it, it will be right. This martyrdom approach of just handling the anger, handling the external situation that's outside of you. This, I've got to get on with it and I'm just gonna get on with it. And this martyrdom is very dangerous because it can make us do all sorts of crazy punishment mechanisms to ourselves. So all these three types that we've been looking at, the inward anger, the self-talk, the punishment, the martyrdom, They're internal types of anger that affect us internally. And this internal anger has a reflection in our mind, our emotions, and our body. External anger, what I would like to call passive aggressive, is when we're probably making external verbal comments, like we're being abusive to somebody, or we're being critical all the time, or we're making snidey comments. Oh, well, he won't do very well, or she won't do very well, or he's always making a cock up of that. That's a passive aggressive, where you're kind of muttering and speaking to others about someone else. But it's an external expression, a verbal and an external expression of an anger that you feel towards someone. And this is known as passive aggressive. So it's passive because you're not really doing anything to the person. And it's also aggressive to yourself because that conversation, those verbal words of critic and anger, that even though you're expressing them externally to the other person in your external world, you're actually inflicting that aggression onto yourself as well. Because the more we speak, our words are creating our experiences. And when we are saying words that are negative and aggressive, we're actually feeding our body and our mind and our spirit with those negative thoughts, words, and therefore it turns into experiences and feelings. External anger also comes out as the physical expression, where some people, if they're angry, they might punch walls, they might bang doors, they might shout at someone, they might be verbally loud and abusive to someone, they might hit someone, they might hurt themselves, they might do something that punishes them physically or punishes the other person physically, emotionally, or mentally. So the external anger is when it comes out of you and it's expressed in your external environment. The internal anger is what goes on inside of you in terms of that self-talk, that self-punishment, and your martyrdom, gotta get on with it. Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh, he actually said something that was very powerful. He was a Vietnamese monk, and he had some amazing sharings to teach the world how to create a more Zen experience in your living and everyday experiences. He said, if you get angry easily, it may be because the seed of anger in you has been watered frequently over many years. And unfortunately, you've allowed it or even encouraged it to be watered. Thich Nhat Hanh. Very wise Zen master. It's a bit like if you put flowers in your garden and you water them, they grow into beautiful flowers. But you can water weeds and create more weeds in your environment that create more poison. So this is being careful. The opposite of this is to water flowers, seeds of wisdom, seeds of beauty, rather than seeds of anger. So let's look at the anger iceberg. What we see generally is the anger above. We see what's externally expressed, the frustration, the irritation. We see the anger in ourselves, and we experience the anger that's experienced externally to others and within ourselves. But anger has a lot of hidden experiences that are underneath the water. So if you imagine an iceberg, the iceberg that you see is only a small part, but there's much beneath the water, beneath the surface. And that anger beneath the surface, it can be emotions such as nervousness, feeling disrespected, feeling lonely, feeling insecure, feeling abandoned. It can be all sorts of things that can move you into a space of just not feeling good about yourself and your surrounding and your situation. And when you are feeling all of those things, what erupts and what people see is the top of the anger rather than what's underneath it, what's creating the anger. And if we look at some of the words underneath the water, like overwhelm, feeling disrespected, irritability, loneliness, insecurity, it kind of makes a little bit of sense. We then go into a softer state of compassion for the person that's angry. Because underneath the anger that's externally expressed, there is deep insecurities underneath that's creating the anger. So there is a cycle to anger. It begins with aggression, or irritability. Kind of start to feel irritable about something or someone or a situation that's occurring or something that's generally in our space that we're not saying anything about. And so the anger can be boiling up, bubbling up under the surface. It can come out as a frustration, an irritability, a feeling of not getting where you want to be. And there's like sort of an internal battle going on of not feeling comfortable about what's happening. It can come out as aggression. And so the words verbally, externally and internally can be aggressive to yourself and or aggressive to others. And it's important to have an understanding that the anger isn't just one thing. It can be a combination of things that can literally move us into that changed state from irritability to aggression. Anger can be coming from a place where we're easily annoyed, that somebody says something and it affects us. And we start responding and reacting to something small that doesn't feel in itself, in its entirety, very meaningful to the person that's expressed something, but you're easily annoyed about it. And this is because we get easily annoyed when it affects our values or it triggers us in some way. That's something that's happened in our past. If somebody says something and it affects your value, we can become irrational. So if somebody attacks you and says something about your professionalism, for instance, I have a value on professionalism, I have a value on the fact that I consider myself an expert in what I do, and I have a value on delivering from the space of the highest place possible. So if somebody kind of cuts across that and says, well, you're useless, you know, I didn't get a great night's sleep because you're completely useless, and that didn't happen for me and that didn't help. It can, because that's a value, I could actually get affected by that and somehow internally annoyed about that or upset even. And we all have our value structures, our systems that, you know, we work behind, we are comfortable in, you know, where we have a structure of a value system of what feels right for us. And our value systems will be different from other people. So different people will have different perspectives on what they value as their highest values. Some people value money, Some people value time. Some people value professionalism. Some people family or freedom. Or some people will value holidays. Some people will be perfectionists, so they will value the professional state of perfectionism. Some people will be annoyed when somebody cuts across a value that is a value to you but not to them. And so that annoyance can come in when we're not being respectful of ourselves, when somebody says something or does something that affects who we really are and how we really show up in the world. And these values are not rational to everyone. It's how we move through life, and they're very personal to us. These values can affect our behaviours towards people being angry at us or we being angry at someone else. And it also can spill out into emotion. The emotion of sadness can create anger. The emotion of frustration can create anger. Criticism can create anger. So there's all sorts of rationale that won't make sense to everyone. What will make me angry might not make you angry. And what makes you angry will not make someone else angry that's in your family. So it's important to have an appreciation of that we're all different. We all communicate in different ways. We all respond in different ways. And just because one person is angry about one particular thing doesn't mean there's a right and a wrong. What it means is that there is something that's triggering them. So let's look at some types of anger and situations. So have you ever had a phone call where you've been really angry? The other person can't see you, but they can feel your anger. Let me say that again. If you're in a call and you are angry, even though the other person can't see you, they will feel your anger. And so it's important when you are doing something like a sales call, for instance, or a call to a member of your family, or a call to a loved one or a friend, that you manage your emotion. If you are angry, to take that space to pause so that you handle the emotion that's within you so it doesn't extend into your external world. Because even though the person can't see you, they will feel your anger. There's anger in relationships, whether they be professional, whether they're in a social setting, whether they're in your family, whether they're in your personal relationships, your intimacy. So we can be angry at someone or with someone. And we can also be letting off steam personally to ourselves, or we can be really angry in our facial expressions. When we are angry, the face contorts, and it actually uses a lot of energy to keep that expression contorted. It takes a lot more energy to create a frown than it does to create a smile. And if you smile, it's quite incredible what can happen in turning anger into a smile. You know, there's a British saying, turn that frown upside down, meaning turn the frown into a smile. And when you do that, you can literally change almost instantly the way that you feel. But letting off steam is not a bad thing, and it's not a good thing. It just simply is. Shouting, being abusive to yourself and to others isn't a bad thing. It's not a good thing. It simply is. This is about becoming aware when you become aware of who you're being and how you're being and how you're showing up and how it's affecting you, then you can start to change it. Awareness is the first step to solving and controlling your anger. Repressed anger. When we repress our experiences of anger, we will generally avoid confrontation. But the anger is still there. So when we avoid confrontation, the anger is suppressed. And it can come out as needing to be in some level of control in all sorts of situations that you find yourself in, whether they be personal, business, professional, social, in your personal and intimate relationships. You will feel like there's a need to be in control or a desire for control in your given experience and situation. And that needing or desiring to be in control can almost make you personally overbearing in your external world and overbearing in your internal world. Because when you suppress anger, it actually expresses itself internally into you and starts to cause you some physical and emotional pain. So this needing to be in control has a huge impact in terms of affecting you in a negative way. Repressed anger can affect your boundaries, where it'll be difficult to say no to someone, always saying yes, being the yes person. Because when you're suppressing anger, you don't want to create a confrontational situation. And when you are in that confrontational situation, it will create situations in your external environment where people won't know what your boundaries are. And they'll be climbing all over them because they have no idea what your boundaries are. And you're quietly, muttering and grunting to yourself because they've stepped all over your boundaries. But actually, the other person has no idea where your boundaries are, what's okay, what's not okay. And that's because you haven't said. And so you can be in this confrontational situation internally where the other person has no idea that they've stepped all over your boundaries. And this can lead to even more repressed anger. When somebody's repressing that anger, it will create an environment of shutting down your personal feelings and emotions and your thoughts. Literally shutting down your emotions. And when you shut down your emotions, your escape route is the mind. And so then you'll be seen as perhaps complaining at this and at that, and that this person did that, or this person said this. And when you find that you're complaining and always talking about this didn't work, that didn't work, the person that's always writing the complaint letters, the person that's always going through a procedure, a law court case, the person that's got a grievance with this person and that person. This will be a familiar experience, the person that's complaining, because they're not just complaining about one aspect of their life, they'll be complaining about many aspects of their life. And that's because internally there's a repressed anger, and externally it comes out as complaining, justifying, wanting to and needing to be in some level of control and needing to be right, that justification mechanism. And this doesn't bode well for them because they're always in a battle, always fighting their corner, because they don't feel heard, they don't feel respected, and they don't feel cared for. The very fundamental reasons that they are in existence as themselves doesn't feel like they're being themselves. They're everything to everyone else, and not anything to themselves. And when that happens, you lose your own self-identity. You lose a feeling of the will to live at times, because nothing feels right. Everything will feel wrong. And so this battle will be an internal battle. And that battle resides here internally in the heart center. The heart center will feel very heavy, and it'll almost feel like, you're every day you put your suit of armor on, and every day you go in and fight your battle. And every day you end up feeling exhausted. And every day you get up and you feel another day, another battle. It'll feel like a survival. And it wouldn't be surprising for you to know that when there's a repressed anger, it affects the adrenal gland, which is the root chakra, which is your foundations, your stability, your boundaries, your right to be here. And when the anger overspills, it will move into the solar plexus, which affects you in terms of your control in situations. This affects your power in situations, and it affects your self-esteem and your self-confidence. So repressed anger isn't comfortable. So avoiding confrontation and feeling that need to be in control will have an extreme impact on the way that you experience life, personally, to yourself. It can bring about a feeling of shame, because you didn't control those boundaries. You didn't speak up and say what you really felt and what you really thought, and why this is not right. And even though you feel those things, it's difficult for you to express because you want to avoid confrontation. And so on some deeper level, underneath that repressed anger, there will be a level of shame of you feeling that anger, because there will be an experience of not wanting to show anger, being passive about anger. And when we don't express our anger, it has huge detrimental implications to our body, our mind, and our emotional body. It affects us in a really, really deep way, because if we're always smiling and not expressing the anger in a good way, it will affect us in every aspect of our lives. I want to look at how we can break this cycle of anger, and looking at the cognitive behaviour therapy model of looking at the triggers. So what happens is there's an event, a situation, an experience, a circumstance, a conversation. So there's a trigger. Something happens and there's a trigger. And that trigger can come from all sorts of places. It can come from something way, way back in our childhood, or an experience that we had in a relationship that was just really terrible. And we're not thinking about these things from a logical space. It just is a trigger. It's like an emotional, mental trigger that something happens, and it's like your body and your mind suddenly feels on the defensive. And then from that trigger, all sorts of thoughts come up into the mind. You're not going to get the better of me. You're not going to win. I'm going to get through this. I'm in control here. All sorts of thoughts will come up about that past experience. And there may be many past experiences, because the root cause of anger, of trauma of anger, can be manifold. It can be one key event that repeats itself over and over and over in your life. And so when we first learn anger, It can be when we're very, very young, maybe when we're 1 or 2 or 3 years old, and we respond to something that we don't feel comfortable about because we see in our family that response in others, in our parents, in our siblings, in our relatives, our close family, our friendships. We see something and we say, hey, if I'm not happy about something, that's how I respond. And so the thoughts create feelings. And those feelings of inadequacy, guilt, shame, jealousy, those feelings become real. And when we think all those negative thoughts, it then moves into a feeling. And we feel that in our body, in our emotional body. And those feelings move into creating behaviour. And so we respond negatively from guilt, shame, jealousy, justification, being wronged. And those create external behaviours. We either suppress the anger that we feel or we express it. And then that behaviour reinforces those thoughts and the cycle begins again. So it's the trigger, knowing what your triggers are, that create that external experience of lack of control in a situation that creates our anger. And we've seen those people that just can't control their anger and they fly off the handle at everything small. And then we see those people that repress everything. And you can feel it, that they don't say anything. And then that reinforces and moves through the cycle of the thoughts, creating the feelings, feeling disrespected, feeling unloved, feeling uncared for, creating the behaviour of needing to be in control, and it goes on. So what are your triggers? What are the things that make you feel angry or upset, or where you feel they've cut across a value? What are your triggers? Because when you understand and you become aware of your triggers that create your own personal anger, this is the first step to being able to control the way that you express your anger. Now, I'm not saying that anger isn't something we should express. I'm saying it's important to express anger that we feel at the time in the most appropriate way. It doesn't work if you're punching walls and shouting and screaming, even though that might feel good at the time. It doesn't give you the solace that you think you need from expressing that anger. You know, I've been on training courses where they've suggested punching cushions and, stamping up and down, like the child that, sort of is really angry. They throw a tantrum and they're literally jumping up and down in a tantrum of anger. And then after about 5 minutes, it's gone. And these kinds of strategies are good if you do them alone. They're not about doing them at or with other people, because it's your anger that's important for you to let go of and express. And you'll be surprised when you let out the anger in this controlled way, it will be easier for you to experience much more kindness and lightness in your life. But it's understanding your triggers. That's how you break the cycle of anger. Where did the trigger first begin? As a therapist, I always look at root cause trauma. Where did it start? Because when we're born, we're not born angry. When we're born, we're not born throwing tantrums and feeling or being disrespected. What happens is life situations, circumstances happen, and then we start responding in a way that doesn't support us or the people around us. So it's about managing what that anger is about, what is coming up for us that we're not handling or dealing with. Now, anger affects your body in a big, big way. Arthritis is unexpressed anger. Now, there are many people that have arthritis. It is common to hear that somebody's suffering with arthritis. And anger is an acidic development in the body that develops in the areas of the body that collates an acid which creates the pain. So anger can come out as cramps or in the muscles and in the tendons. Anger is in the kidneys, and it can create gallstones. Gallstones are literally stones of anger. There's been so much anger that it's created stones in the body. So this is big because we didn't express or know how to handle or express in the right way our anger. It can create headaches. When you're feeling that pressure of anger, it can literally build up in the head and create severe headaches or even migraine. It affects the blood, and so it can raise your blood pressure. It can give you hypertension. And it also could result in potential heart attack or stroke. So anger is really, really important to manage in the best possible way for you and for your body and for your health. Anger can affect the digestive tract. When there is something that you're angry about, it can actually affect you in terms of heartburn. So whatever you're angry about, it's like an acid that comes up the esophagus and up the tract. So from the stomach, digestive acid, the stomach acid can come up the body and it can affect the upper chest and create what's known as a heartburn. And that's acidic. It's the digestive stomach juices coming up into the lungs and into the upper chest that affects you. And this is because there is something that you are angry about that you've not digested, not accepted. Mostly all these things can cause a huge mental, emotional, and physical fatigue in the body. You will feel generally very tired. Because remember, when you're frowning and in anger, it takes more energy to frown and be angry than it does to smile and to laugh. And so managing your state of anger in the best way possible that you express your anger, in the kindest way possible to you, can have an immense impact in your body and in terms of your physical, emotional, and mental health. I want to look at some anger management models of how we can control what we get angry about and what we can manage about that anger. And there's this beautiful model that we tend to get angry often about things that are outside of your control. And so we can get angry about how other people react. We can get angry about other people's mistakes, or other people's feelings, or other people's words, or other people's ideas, or other people's play, and other people's behaviour. We can't control other people. And so when we try to control other people, this is where anger can fester and become really, really unmanageable, because you can't control other people's behaviour, their words, their responses, and what they do. And so getting angry about the external things doesn't help you, because there's nothing you can do. And in your environment, if you're on a train and it's running late and you're late for a meeting, being angry about that train running late and being late for the meeting does not help you, because it's out of your control. If you're in a meeting and the meeting has been hijacked by a few people with their own agendas, you can't control that. It's out of your control. And so when you get angry about those things, there's nothing you can do about it, and the anger implodes on you. So the way that I would look at this to help you manage your anger is to look at the things you can control. You control your own words, your actions, your ideas. You control the way that you respond to others. You control your own boundaries. And the things that you say to others and the way that you respond to others. Look at all the things that you can control about the experience that you're having. And when you control those things, you control your anger. Because you can't control what's outside of you. You can't change someone just by telling them that they've got to change. You can't make somebody do something. You can't make somebody be better or to do what you want at will. But you can lead by example. One of the things, my invitations that I would suggest, is that you're kind to yourself. And in kindness, you create an environment of a higher vibration, and you create an environment of more compassion, more kindness, more love internally, which will reflect in your external world. When you look at managing what you can control, that reduces your anger management. That reduces your anger tenfold. Because most of the time we are complaining and getting angry about things that are completely outside our control. Managing your anger. Pause. Take a breath. Take another breath. And take another breath. Rather than saying, you make me feel, use I statements. No one can make you feel anything. You make you feel everything. So use I. I feel this when I'm in this type of situation. Separate the behaviour from the person. It's never the person, it's the behaviour. Use I feel angry when I'm upset and I'm not in control. And when you use I statements, you put yourself into a place of tons of control. And when you're in control, the anger goes down and you can manage your emotions. Exercise. When you feel angry, go and take a walk, take a run, move away from the situation and do something that's positive for you. Run on the spot, go to the bathroom and run on the spot. Do some exercise. You will feel different because what you'll be doing is moving that anger down the body and feeding the adrenal gland. And it will move you out of fight and flight, and it will move you into a place of resourcefulness. Meditation practice is really powerful for managing your state of anger. There's lots of different types of meditation. And it's not just about sitting on a mountaintop. Many people say that, you have to be in a certain room with all sorts of quietness and not be doing anything or have distractions around you. And that's ideal and that's perfect. We're not actually always in the most perfect environments to do that. But meditation can take all forms. Dance meditation is a movement meditation. Singing. You can be singing and be in a meditation. You can be laughing and be in a meditation. You can be having fun and being participative in an experience with others, and that can be a meditation. So everything is a meditation as long as you're present. Be present in whatever you're doing, wherever you are, and that will change your state of anger. I mentioned exercise earlier, and I'm going to say it again. Exercise. For some people, going to the gym. Some people will literally move themselves into a high state on the machines that they're using. Or they'll pump iron, or they'll run on a treadmill. So going to a gym is an excellent way to lift all aggression, because even though it's difficult, especially if it's cold and it's wet and it's rainy and it's not pleasant, when you go and do that exercise, you will feel different at the end. And that's because you've moved all the energy down the body and you've fed the adrenal gland and you've grounded the energy so that you feel different and better and more in your body. Anger is residing in your head up here, where everything is in your thoughts and your justifications. And when you move into exercise, physical exercise, it takes you out of the head and into the body and then dissipates the anger. The final thing that I would say is, if anger is really, really getting to be challenging for you, seek professional support. Because somebody professional, like myself, can look at the triggers and help you through to understand why the anger is there in the first place. What's causing your anger? Because it could be something very, very deep-rooted from your childhood, from your teenage years, that you've never looked at, never handled, and so you're walking around in an angry state of being. I'm going to finish with a Buddha quote. Holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal with the intent of throwing it at someone. You are the one that gets burned. Holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal, literally holding it, clasping it, with the intent of throwing it at someone else. And while you're holding that hot coal, you are the one that's getting burned. I know it sounds crazy, but this is what we do when we're angry. This is a Buddha quote. And it's so insightful, because if we're not allowing that anger through us and we hold on to it, we are hurting ourselves into a ridiculous state of being, affecting our emotional, our mental, and our physical health. Thank you for your attention and your interest. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is USA Global TV and Radio. You can find all of our Talking Heads episodes under the playlist Talking Heads 2022. You can find all my Talking Heads episodes under Caroline Heward and under the Talking Heads 2022. Please do reach out to me if I may be of service. You can contact me on nomorestress@live.co.uk, or call me if you're international, +44. If you're local, 07523 120 189. I am here to be of service to you. I would love the opportunity to help you manage your anger so that you live the best life that you can for yourself, your family, your relationships, and your work. Thank you. Namaste.